TTIP, in 90,000 people showed up to protest this when President Obama went to Hanover, Germany a couple days ago. 90,000 people, 150,000 people, 200,000 people showing up in Berlin. The people of Europe have gotten it that the trade deals are screwing them. Now, where the European and we're getting it that they've screwed us, and outside of countries there are some countries that benefit from these deals. China's doing very well, Vietnam, Malaysia. But South Korea has, they took another 500,000 of our jobs when we signed the deal with them. In fact, we have for every one of the trade deals, there's an entire agency created in the government to reimburse workers for the lost job, to help retrain them for their next job, flipping burgers at McDonald's or saying, welcome to Walmart, right? Very sophisticated training, but whatever. So these are these trade deals that that just don't work. I don't know how to say it beyond that. And how do we unwind these? One of the arguments that is made against unwinding the trade deals, and you will hear this from all the very smart people, the Thomas Friedmans, the Paul Krugmans, the capital V, capital S, capital P, very smart people. They'll say, if you start raising tariffs, you're going to create a trade war. Now, President Obama in 2009 put a 35% tariff, if my memory serves me right, on Chinese-made tires because he determined that they were engaging in an illegal trade by dumping those tires in the United States. And, China changed their behavior and we went back to buying Chinese tires. But for a while there, we were buying more tires from Mexico and Malaysia than China because we have no import tariffs with anybody, right? Except that we had put tariffs on the Chinese ones. Well, it didn't create a trade war and it didn't end the world and it didn't destroy our economy. But how do we go about doing this? How would we do this? How would we back out of basically 30 years of so-called free trade? It's actually very carefully managed trade to the advantage of transnational corporations and billionaires and to the disadvantage of workers in developed countries and arguably to the advantage of workers in developing countries. Although many of them would say, it was better being on the farm than being slave labor in the city. But in any case, how do we start to unwind this? See, my suggestion is that we should start raising tariffs gradually. The average tariff in the United States right now is 1.4%. We have 20-some-odd thousand tariff categories. You can find them on the internet over at the Department of Trade's website, probably dot.gov or whatever, but you can Google the thing. But that if we said, okay, what we're going to do, first of all, we're going to get out of these trade deals. And secondly, we're going to start selectively raising tariffs. We're going to look at products. There's my favorite example, it's just because it's a really easy and obvious one, is there's really no reason to have a tariff on imported sandalwood carvings from Thailand. Sandalwood grows in a few places in the world, Thailand and India, and it doesn't grow here, and we don't have a big business carving sandalwood here. And if somebody in America wants to buy some carved sandalwood, do we want to discourage that to protect an American manufacturer? No. So, the tariff on that might be 2% or 3% or something like that. Just, enough to cover the cost. See, traditionally, enough to cover the cost of inspecting the stuff when it comes in and making sure that it is what it says it is. Because one of the games that they used to play, I wrote a novel back in the 70s. It has never been published, but it was one of the Oakley Tyler novels. The Death in the Pines was actually the fifth one in the series that I wrote. It was the first one that was published. But the first one I wrote, the MacGuffin, the plot device on it, was that there was this American manufacturer that was shipping stuff to Germany. And in order to avoid paying the German tariffs, or maybe it was the other way around, the Germany was shipping to America, I forget which, but one or the other. In order to avoid the tariffs, they were sending invoices that said that they were shipping $100,000 worth of goods, and in fact, they were shipping $1 million worth of goods. So $900,000 worth of goods did not show up on the bill of lading, and so $900,000 of the value was not subject to tariff. And this deal went south, and it led to a murder, and Oakley Tyler gets called in to figure out who got killed and why and all this kind of stuff. And that was the novel that I wrote. And that's when I learned about tariffs. And I was in the business world at the time. In fact, my friend Jerry Schneiderman and I owned a company called Langley St. Clair Instrumentation Systems, and we were importing from Southeast Asia, principally Japan. We were importing low radiation picture tubes and nickel mesh screen shields that could go over the front of picture tubes to reduce the radiation from them, because this was before there were LCDs for computers. And you can sit 8 feet away from your television in your living room, and the X-rays that are produced by the beam hitting the phosphor particles in the front of the screen, they only go a couple of feet out of the screen. So if you're sitting 8 feet away, you're getting no X-rays. But if you're sitting, a foot and a half from one of these older picture tubes, and they've always had lead in the front to reduce the radiation, but it does produce they do produce X-rays. So we were selling these screen shields, and shipping them into the United States and paying tariffs. And when I learned about this, I also, in my many travels at the time, because I was traveling all over the world looking for goods that we could sell. We had a full page ad in the back of Byte magazine back in the mid 80s. This was Byte magazine. This is when people were just beginning with computers, right? And looking for stuff, and I learned this stuff, and so I wrote this novel about it. So how do we back into a situation like that? I think that what we should do is we should start saying, okay, we're going to start raising tariffs gradually and slowly, but in a way that is going to cause American manufacturers who have moved overseas to say, it'll be cheaper if we make it in the United States. So let's raise them 1 or 2% a year over a 10-year period, because it takes time to move a factory and retrain people. And at the end of that decade, and this isn't like an instant trade war, right? And at the end of that decade, we're back to a 15, 20, 25% tariff on average. Might be a whole lot higher on things that we consider really vital. Right now, we can't build a cruise missile or a battleship without buying electronics manufactured in China that may or may not have EPROMs in them, that have all kinds of backdoors and all kinds of weird stuff. Who knows? So I would think that for national security, if for no other reason, we'd want to making those things in the United States. So I'd start there. We want to encourage manufacturing, super high-tech manufacturing in the United States. And then I'd work my way down. Okay, we also want to encourage manufacturing refrigerators in the United States, and carrier air conditioners in the United States, and and stoves in the United States, and on and on the list goes. Radios, televisions, computers. Wouldn't it be nice if we made these things here again and bring these good-paying jobs back? But do it, with a certain amount of gradualness, because it did, we dropped our tariffs, not entirely gradually, but it took about a decade for our tariffs to go from 15, 16, 18, 20, 22% down to 1.4%. Let's just take it back up.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.